Welcome to Orange County, Florida, our event for International Sculpture Day. Today, around the world, we are celebrating sculpture, and we here in Orange County are going to take you on a tour of our Sculpture on the Lawn program. We have 4 sculptures that are on loan for the year on the right downtown Orlando in front of the Orange County Administration Center. So we'll take a little tour of each one. We'll have each of the artists here. You're welcome to ask questions or put comments in the chat that our artists can see or respond to. And our first artist is Chantal Derriere-Cristol with a sculpture called Harmony. We're here at Harmony by Chantal Derriere-Cristol. And as you might guess from the name and probably my poor pronunciation, she is from France. It's in some ways very simple, 2 pieces of metal, but the curvature and the way they come together form harmony. By Chantal Derriere-Cristol. And we have Chantal here. We also have her son, Michael, who she says is better at English, so to do some help with the language. Anyway, welcome, Chantal.
Bienvenue.
Thank you so much.
And this sculpture was made in France and brought here, is that right? Or did you create it, have it fabricated over here?
Où l'as-tu conçue et où a-t-elle été fabriquée?
Voilà. Alors, Harmonie a été conçue en France, puisque elle m'a été inspirée spontanément donc l'année passée. Et je dirais que j'ai eu plaisir à la présenter à l'appel d'offres, donc de façon à la faire participer à cet événement que j'apprécie énormément.
So the conception, the design, and the creation was really done in France, but the execution and the kind of the manufacturing part of it was done here in Florida.
Great. That saves a lot of hassle when bringing a sculpture to our program of Sculpture on the Lawn. And do you have some other pieces in Florida as well?
As-tu d'autres œuvres en Floride?
Alors, en Floride, actuellement, non, mais j'en ai 3 autres en projet que je voudrais exposer donc à la fin de l'année 2023, en novembre et décembre en galerie. Et je participe malgré tout à d'autres appels d'offres américains justement pour la Floride.
So sculpture. So she does have several paintings in different cities, but as sculptures, Harmony is the only one on display right now in the US. She has currently 3 in progress, in preparation of a solo exhibit she'll be doing in St. Pete end of the year.
In St. Petersburg, Florida?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, congratulations on that. Anything you want to say about the Orange County program and your sculpture there?
Qu'est-ce que tu aurais quelques mots à dire par rapport au programme d'Orange County et le fait que tu aies participé et que ta sculpture y soit?
Alors attends, là, je comprends pas trop. Là. Quel programme?
Est-ce que tu as quelques mots à dire par rapport au programme d'Orange County et ta participation à leur programme?
Ah oui, d'accord, oui. Oui. Oui, en fait, je regarde régulièrement les soumissions pour les sculptures en Floride et je participe puisque je suis très intéressée de pouvoir présenter mes œuvres dans ce pays que j'aime beaucoup.
Qu'est-ce que tu penses de ce qu'ils font? De lui et son équipe, qu'est-ce qu'ils font, de son travail?
Non, pardon?
Qu'est-ce que tu penses de leur activité à Orange County?
Ah oui. Je trouve que cela donne une opportunité pour présenter des œuvres et stimuler l'inspiration pour pouvoir collaborer ensemble pour la présentation des œuvres.
So she's saying it's pretty interesting because it's not just that you guys are amazing in putting art together. You are also by itself, you're also a source of inspiration for an artist like her, and stimulates even more her creativity to do more, and because of the quality of your action, the program itself, and so many other things you guys are working on, and the way you do it too. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And is there any particular reason that Florida is a place that you want to have your work?
Alors, parmi les 50 États aux US, pourquoi la Floride?
Pourquoi la Floride? Ben, particulièrement parce que je l'ai apprécié du fait que j'ai ma famille, une partie de ma famille à Clearwater. Et donc, cela m'a orientée vers cette région. De plus, j'en suis tombée amoureuse.
So she literally fell in love with Florida, but the first opportunity was a family opportunity since, I'm her son, and we live in Clearwater here. So they have two beautiful grandsons, and here.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to bring you back after we look at some of the other artists. So next we are going to take a look at Steampunk Babylon by Charles Pilkey.
A whale. One of the surprises here at Steampunk Babylon by Charles Pilkey from North Carolina. This tower is a combination of all kinds of little elements, both human, natural, and mechanical. And therefore, steampunk, making its own comment about society and the mechanization of it. Steampunk Babylon by Charles Pilkey.
Welcome, Charles.
Hello.
Charles, you must have fun finding little things like, oh, I'm going to stick this on, or I'm going to stick that on, or I could use this here.
Well, I do spend a lot of time in scrap metal yards over several months trying to find things for this sculpture. Yes.
And was there something in particular that inspired the creation of Steampunk Babylon?
Well, the original idea of a tower actually came from childhood dreams I had many years ago. Of course, memory changes those dreams. And I spent, more recently, a week in Cambodia going through the temples, Angkor Wat and all the other temples. And I was very impressed with the brilliance of the Khmer sculptors. And I think there's a bit of an influence in Steampunk Babylon from Angkor Wat. And all there's dozens and dozens of temples there. Beautiful stuff.
And do you use a particular patina on that covers the whole of this sculpture?
I use the cheapest patina available. It's called rust. You don't have to buy it. You just let it happen. So when you let steel rust, first of all, steel is an industrial material. But if you let it rust, it's no longer 100% industrial. It has the imprint of nature. And the layer of rust forms a barrier that prevents further rust, especially if you put something like linseed oil on it. This particular sculpture, I covered it with penetrol after it acquired a deep brown patina. Penetrol is linseed oil and a mix of chemicals that you need a master's degree in chemistry to understand. But it basically preserves the sculpture as it is.
And how about you? Do you have other sculptures in Florida currently?
Yeah, I guess I have a piece in Rosemary Beach. They bought a work of mine last year. Rosemary Beach is up on the peninsula. I've shown there a few times. This is the first time. This is the furthest south that I have shown in Florida, in Orlando.
Well, we often say that you go north to get to Orlando, and from Orlando you go north. No, from Orlando you go north to go to the south, because we're so kind of Midwestern, as opposed to the Panhandle where Rosemary Beach is, which is much more in the south. But anyway, but I think you've got sculptures going into a number of different places around the country at this time. Is that right?
Oh gosh. Well, one of we Americans, America has entered a golden age of sculpture, and it's mostly because of this leasing system, which you guys are participating in, where a town essentially rents a sculpture, leases a sculpture for a year, during which time the artist can sell the work. So it's the equivalent of an outdoor gallery. And this system, I don't know who started it, but it's spread across the country, and it allows people like me, sculptors like me, to make a living, basically. So I'm able to sell work through this system and get some money for the leasing that helps to pay, defray the cost of production and the driving cost and so forth. So I probably have about, I guess somewhere between 15 and 20 sculptures scattered from the Midwest down to Orlando, Baltimore, Memphis, and basically where I can drive a 1 day's drive or close to a 1 day's drive from where I live in North Carolina. Yeah, it's a great system.
Good. Well, I'm glad that it's working for you. We want you to be making a living. So thank you. Again, we will pull you back at the end, but now we will go on and take a look at a sculpture by John Phillips called Cutting Up.
This explosion of color and fun is Cutting Up by John Phillips. And very simple in many ways, but the fun and festivity and colors just cannot be contained by this dull gray tube. No, it's bursting out, it's cutting up. Sculpture by John Phillips.
Welcome, John.
Thank you, Terry.
And we didn't say, where are you from? Where are you located?
I'm from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay. And Cutting Up is an interesting name. I mean, the pieces of the gray are cut up, perhaps, but tell us the story of naming this sculpture.
Well, when I was in college, there was a bar called Ho John's, and the bartender there she was renowned all over the city. And her key phrase was everything that shut the music off, and she'd say, "Y'all cut up now." And we just had the best time at this place. And it was a legendary place. It's the kind of place where, 40 years later, people still use the term cutting up around Montgomery. So it's a locally famous phrase.
And so what would you do when you're cutting up?
Well, I'm not much of a dancer, but I would watch them dance, have a few drinks and watch them dance, and maybe attempt it a little bit, but not a whole lot. Not very successfully, I'll put it like that.
All right.
So it was just a good way to blow off steam. I was working and going to school full time and staying pretty busy, and that was my one small outlet. So, it kind of carried with me. So I tend to get too immersed in stuff and get too serious and too bogged down with everything that's going on. And sometimes you just need a reminder to lighten up and appreciate the fact that, you're just here for one ride. You might as well enjoy part of it. So that's what it's about.
Yep. The gray tube that I referred to that the color comes out of is metal, but is it painted?
It is. It's just a faux. I just wanted to give it an industrial blah, and make it look like the beauty within is really what the whole thing where my mindset was, inside everything and everybody is this beauty that's just waiting to emerge. It just needs the right key. So, and that's kind of the whole thought process behind it.
Right. And the things that are protruding are well, I wouldn't want to have them fly into me because they're kind of.
No, they are forged steel. So there's a little bit of irony in this whole thing that you never think of steel as a celebratory, an expressive material like this, but it works real well. And so it kind of goes against the grain for most sculptors to use a steel in a light-hearted way, but that's what this is.
Great. And have you had sculpture in Florida before?
I've not. This is my first installation down here, so this is my foray into Florida. So it's been a good one.
All right. And you have a new project you're working on, I think, like a facility?
I did. I want to do larger sculpture, and I just purchased an old brewery that was built in the late 1800s, and it's actually the only building left out of the whole complex, which was the cooler. And the bottom floor has 17-foot ceilings. The walls are like 2 feet thick, concrete and brick. So the thing is it's going to be a perfect sculpture studio when we finally get it put together and up and running here soon, I hope.
Great.
So I'm not building much other than a place to build sculpture for the next few months.
The infrastructure, you're working on the infrastructure.
That's right. The foundation of my next sculpture is in the works. So I'm really excited about it, though. This is exciting. I've been in a long time. So.
Great. Well, again, we'll call you back, but we'll go take a look at our last sculpture today, which is Intus by Joaquin Restrepo.
Thank you, Terry.
Intus by Joaquin Restrepo has 4 figures that are see-through in the top parts of them and solid at the bottom. Some are kind of merging together. So this makes me think about relationships and what is a human. This is Intus by Joaquin Restrepo.
Welcome, Joaquin.
Hello, it's great to be with you again.
And so rounding up our International Sculpture Day tour, we have another international artist. Where are you at?
Right now, I am in Bogota, Colombia.
Which is where you're from?
Yes, exactly. I am in my studio working in some new pieces to be installed soon.
And so these pieces, we can see some behind you where the figure is kind of looking up, as opposed to the 2 that are melded in front of ours. And the top half of them is much different than the bottom. And I have a question about the legs. They have those, I don't know, are they pock marks or are they places where they're screwed together like a robot? Or what's your thought there?
The idea was born many years ago when I started making sculptures. I was back in my university, and I had an auction. I actually sent some pieces to an auction, and they accepted it. So it was like New York Christie's. They send I don't know how do you call that, a hammer of them, and they were going to make an auction. And I sent a piece, and it was selected. And I had to give it a finish, but I was too small. I had 18 years old. So I asked my mom, I was like, I don't know how can I finish it? I want to make it maybe in marble, maybe in iron. And she was like, no, let's do it in iron. So I told her to come here because I live in a different city from where she lived. And we devised a system in which we placed like fiberglass and then on top iron plates. And then we drill them and we put I don't remember the name of the little thing. Years a little bit after that, my mom died. So it's a way to keep her with me and to remember that time. So in this time, what is done, it is not iron in those pieces because they have been made a mold after them. So it is like a reminiscence of what they were. So they become like little armors, but maybe not. I don't really know.
Okay. And the top part of the figure is a different material. What are those made of?
It depends. It depends on the system. Sometimes it's full iron. Sometimes it's iron and then it's wood and also with cloth. And you start wrapping it around. I don't know if you know what a fetish is called. They used to make like a witchcraft in Africa and also here in Colombia. So it's a little bit of magic, a little bit of torture, little bit of the structural, industrial structure. So it's a little bit of mix of everything.
And is that finished with fiberglass or with an epoxy?
It is a mix. I have the wood, then I have like iron strips, then I have a fiberglass and how do you call an epoxy, and then it is cloth around, and then fiber epoxy again. So it's a mix of many things. So you change the material from one thing to the next one, and the idea is to give the same conceptual idea as maybe using iron, but having it a little bit lighter, so you can install them. Actually, a few weeks ago, I installed a big exhibition here in Colombia, and I have like 20 pieces of them. And the place is a colonial place, which is historical. So you cannot drill, you cannot do anything, and you have to be very careful that the weight just as it is. So it is nice for those types of installations.
And what is your connection with Florida? Have you done other work here?
Yes, I actually have been traveling a lot. I have my sister living there, and sometimes I travel and I work for some months on some pieces. I have a gallery in Miami. I have another one in New Smyrna, and I like to travel a lot. I love it. I love Orlando. I love Mount Dora, like all the nearby areas. And the idea is to keep traveling and working. I work part-time in Bogota, part-time in Spain, part-time in Mexico, and part-time in Florida. The idea is to keep connecting the dots.
Great. Well, thank you. We'll bring you back as well. At this point, I'd like to show our folks a little time lapse of the changeover day from last month's exhibition to this year's exhibition of our Sculpture on the Lawn program. So we'll take a look at that. And so we have Dawn Knight here, our public art coordinator, who was in charge of that mayhem of a day.
Yes. It really was actually a really wonderful installation day. It may take much to notice, but in the video you see actually 4 sculptures being deinstalled and then 4 sculptures being installed. So it takes a lot of coordination. I have to say my great thanks to Patrick Pacifico of RDS Industrial, who was our installation specialist this year. And I also really enjoy getting to know the sculptors each year on installation day. I feel like this year we kind of really created a community. It was fun. So I enjoy my job, even though it comes with a whole lot of technical things to navigate.
All that deinstallation and installation happened on the same day?
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
So, and one of the sculptures was possibly the most technically difficult de-installations that we've ever had. And last year's sculptures, we had two of the biggest sculptures we've ever had. So that was, that was something. But the sculptors, this year's sculptures, were very easy to work with, and understood the complexities, and they helped the day be wonderful. And then, of course, the day after installation, we had our opening event, and that went very well too.
Super. And how many years have we been doing this sculpture on the lawn now? What?
I believe this was the 8th annual year.
Okay, great. Well, speaking of community, let's bring all those artists back on.
Yay!
There we go, Chantel with her interpreter, Mikhail, Charles, Joaquin, and John. Welcome, folks. Do any of you folks have any comments or questions for any of the other artists?
I would just like to say how enjoyable the whole process was. I mean, I think your installer, he just deserves a special round of applause. The guy's very talented. They did a great job. They made it really smooth, and did good there. And I just think the whole thing came together real smooth. Hanging out with everybody, everything was real laid back. Everybody had a good time, and you really kind of walked away feeling like you left with more than you came with. So that's the way I felt when I drove back to Montgomery.
Great. And folks, seeing that video, you can see our lawn, and we have the 4 pads.
Des questions pour les artistes?
Necessarily described that before, but
Des questions pour les artistes?
they're right there by one of the main street that goes right through the middle of Orlando. So it has a lot of viewing, a lot of eyes viewing those sculptures.
Almost every time you go to the building, the Orange County Administration Center, you see people taking selfies and taking pictures and enjoying the sculpture day and night.
I always try to take a picture of the people taking a picture, but by the time I get my phone out, I'm like, they're done.
Je tiendrais à vous remercier parce que ce que vous faites pour les artistes est extraordinaire. Ça leur permet de présenter ce qu'ils ont dans le cœur et de le matérialiser par des œuvres qu'ils vous présentent.
So what Chantal was saying is that she wanted to say thank you because, as Charles commented in a discussion earlier, it is not just dropping a sculpture somewhere and displaying it. It's creating, as Dawn was saying, this community and have the opportunity to connect with the other artists and understand much deeper or what each one has in his soul and in his heart when doing his art. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. We have fun doing it. And Don mentioned day and night. We do have lighting on each of the pads, so they're lit at night. And the next block is a parking garage used for our Performing Arts Center. So there are a lot of people going past this as well at night and seeing them lit up. And it has made a great difference to have the lights. We didn't at the very beginning.
And also, the lights are computer controlled. They were chosen by each of the artists, and that is a thing that you don't get anywhere. And it's a marvelous thing to have that. You can choose how you want your sculpture to be lit.
Great. I'm glad you're happy about that.
It was a fun process.
Sometimes we, I'm not sure you know this, and maybe you don't want to, but sometimes we coordinate with the rest of the city and it's all pink for Breast Cancer Day or things like that. So there are a number of lighted places around the city that sometimes coordinate for a particular citywide thing. So sorry about that.
Whenever you do that, just make sure you send us the picture so we can share it on Instagram and in social media, because I would love to see the sculptures all pink.
All right. Great. Well, I really appreciate you joining us. I know we've got a bunch of different time zones going here. And it's great that we can all be together for a while. And we're not going to stand up because we don't know what anyone's wearing below the waistline.
I'm worried about Joaquin there. I don't know why.
Anyway, so thank you, everybody, and thank you all for watching this tour of our Sculptures on the Lawn here at Orlando and Orange County. And keep celebrating International Sculpture Day.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Thank you so
all.
much.
Thank
Amazing
you.
Bye, guys.
work.
Thank you very
so
much.
Bye.
Thank you for all the effort and for everything that you have done for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.